Hello and welcome to the Oak Spring podcast, where we celebrate the legacy of Mrs. Bunny Mellon through the work of the Oak Spring Garden Foundation. I'm your host, Chris Stafford, and this is Season 2, Episode 3. On this month's episode, we're joined by two Oak Springers who are dedicated to educating their local communities about the importance of the natural world. First, we'll be hearing from Mary Ann Redding, who is the curator at the Turchin Center for the Visual Arts at Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina. Mary Ann has made the mission of the Turchin Center to serve as a platform for exhibitions that address the urgent realities of climate change. Mary Ann is a visual arts curator and a writer with more than 40 years' experience working as a curator, an archivist, a librarian, educator, arts administrator, writer, and sometimes image maker. Mary Ann welcomes responses to local, regional, and global climate change and the impact that the decline of natural resources and civility have on all life on the planet. Her goal is to provide insight into artists' creative concerns, wildest dreams, inspired hopes, and waking dreams for the immediate present and for the future. Mary Ann, thank you for joining us on the podcast this month.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Well, we're all about community this month on the show, so I want to start with a little bit of your background, if we may, as a curator. What is that involved in terms of community? Give us a foundation to the work you're doing now and what this all means in terms of community to you.
That's a great question. Thank you. For me, I am the senior curator at the Turchin Center for the Visual Arts, which is in the mountains of rural Western North Carolina at Appalachian State University. So our community is even more important now, having survived Hurricane Helene. But as a curator, community for me is connecting our academic community, our university community with the regional community and with the larger art community. Boone, North Carolina is about 2 hours from any airport and any major city. So it's really important to bring the art community here to Boone and to also encourage our students to travel, both nationally and internationally. We have a very strong Office of International Programs on campus. So I do regional shows, I do local shows, I do national and international shows. This summer, we will be hosting an exhibition of international artwork from Thailand. So community is both immediate and then it is global for me. And so bringing the art world to Boone and then encouraging students, faculty, and staff, actually, and including myself, to participate on a broader level. Given
how communication has changed over the years, and I'm sure during your career, Mary Ann, I'm wondering how you would contextualize the role of community now and how it plays out as opposed to how it used to, given the different avenues, channels of communication that we have. And is it in some ways more important now that we communicate as a community in a way that we lost in years past?
Well, I think both are important. I think especially when you're working as a curator and you're working with the visual arts, it's really, really important that people see artwork in person. I mean, when you stand in front of Michelangelo's David, that brings you to your knees. A projection, a photograph of David on a screen will never be the same thing as it is in person. And I think that's true. You know, that's a famous example, but I think that's true of all artwork. You need to see artwork in person. So that means walking in the front door, wherever that door happens to be. But to extend that community, it's really important for us here at the Turchin Center that we create documents that live online on our website, that we are part of Bloomberg's Autocast, that we share our artwork in as many different ways as possible so that we can open the doors to as many communities as possible who may not be able to walk through the front door. So all of our exhibitions have multiple components, whether they're audio components that you can find on your phone through an autocast, whether they are on our website where there is extensive information about the artwork, about the artist, links to relevant sites for each artist, links to more information, reviews. All of the artwork that is in the gallery is also online. So I think that there are multiple points of entry when you think about the reach that you want to have into multiple communities. I don't think that there is one community in the art world. I think there are multiple communities, and having those tentacles out into as many of those communities as you can as possible is really important.
Yes, to create an interwoven societies, as it were, crossing all those different channels, as you pointed out. I think that is the role, I guess, that you putting your arms around all of these, Marianne.
Yes, through the arts.
Through the arts. And I wanted just to contextualize what you're doing now with what you've done in the past. Give us a little snapshot, if you would, of your background, which is now quite extensive in the world of visual arts, and as an archivist and librarian and educator. So you've worn several hats. Tell us how this all came about.
Well, I started off working in the darkroom as a photographer and made a very conscious decision that I wanted to work in community. So this is perfect. And that I thought I was a good photographer, but I could be an excellent curator and create environments for people to come into working with artists. So I have a degree in library science because it's important to me to bring books and art and people together. I don't think any book should be banned. And I have a degree in arts administration, and I just finished a degree in creative leadership at the Minneapolis College of Art and Design, because I am also a proponent of lifelong learning, and I think it's important to walk the talk, especially in an academic institution, to stay current as possible with what the art world is, with what leadership means, with what artists are doing, with what is important in the world today. There's not just one way to find that, or find it for yourself, or engage in a larger community. So I think it's important to do all of those different things. I have worked as an archivist and a librarian at the Center for Creative Photography in Tucson. I was the chair of the photography department at the Marion Center for Photographic Arts in Santa Fe. So I've also worked in public libraries. And so I think that you reach people where they are. And it's important to do that in multiple ways. I also think the best curators have some creative practice, whether that's music, whether that is working with clay, whether that is working in the darkroom, whether that is drawing, whether that is taking a paintbrush and applying it to a canvas, that the best curators know how to create an artwork and understand process, as well as creating an environment that you invite people into, and to have a conversation about important issues through art, and art in its broadest sense. Yes, I work with the visual arts now, but I think that literature, poetry, the performing arts, all of those arts change people's lives. I've believed that ever since I was a child and lived 3 blocks from the Albright Knox Gallery in Buffalo, New York. And every Sunday, my parents took us there, and we were allowed to play. And that sense of play in an art environment has stayed with me all my life.
Are you an artist?
I started an MFA in photography, and then, as I said earlier, I made a very conscious decision to work as a curator instead of as an artist, because community is important to me. And I think as a curator, I've had the opportunity to work with artists from all over the world. And that kind of community is what changes the world.
Absolutely. I wondered if you were a secret Sunday afternoon painter or something that you keep to yourself.
A secret Sunday afternoon photographer.
Okay. You get a chance to fulfill your creative ambitions then through photography.
Yes.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, let's go back to Oak Spring.
Okay.
And how you first were introduced to Oak Spring and what brought you here.
Well, I was first introduced to Oak Spring Garden Foundation through one of their short courses that Gretchen Henderson taught. She taught two courses that I've taken, actually, reading the landscape and literary ecology. So I had the opportunity to spend 2 different weeks taking a short course at Oak Spring and learning to read their landscape. And as part of that, I had the opportunity to meet Danielle Adey, who is their program director. She and I actually both went to graduate school at the Art Institute of Chicago many years apart. She's much younger than I am, a very talented up-and-coming curator and program director. And we were just chatting over dinner. And she had curated a small show of the resident artists that the Oak Spring Garden Foundation has supported since 2018. And she was saying, that where they are in Upperville, Virginia, they don't have a huge audience at their gallery. So I offered her the opportunity to bring the Oak Spring resident artists to the Turchin Center. And what's nice is that we are both located in the Blue Ridge Mountains. They are further north in the Blue Ridge Mountains than we are. They're just about an hour south of Washington, D.C. We're nestled into the southern Appalachian Mountains, much closer to Asheville. But the landscape shares a lot of similarities. And the first time I was at the Oak Spring Garden, the hurricane had not happened. And the second time I did a short course there, the hurricane had just happened here in the southern Appalachian Mountains. And so it was, again, really important to think about place and to showcase artists who were looking at the landscape of the Blue Ridge. And so bringing those artists here, and we expanded the exhibition and included more artists. We have a bigger gallery, so that we were able to bring artists here. We created a small reading room so that people have the opportunity to look at the artwork that was created at Oak Spring by resident artists from all over the world. And then we created a reading room for people to sit on couches or comfortable chairs to read some of the books that were published by the Oak Spring Garden Foundation or their artists, and think about the landscape and think about the communities that we build in the land, and think about what destruction was caused by the hurricane into this place that we call home. So what we've lost, and at the same time, what can be created and what we want the landscape and our communities to look like going forward.
Well, that brings me very nicely segueing into climate change, and it's something I know that you're passionate about. So tell us how that fits in with the work that you're doing now, Mary Ann.
Well, again, I think that's a great question. And I think that climate change is obvious. We don't have hurricanes in the mountains of Western North Carolina until we do. And now we do. And so is this the first of many? I can't answer that question. But looking at science, looking at how climate has changed around the world, I think that we are seeing the impacts of climate change on a daily basis or an annual basis, maybe not a daily basis unless we're really paying attention and we're looking with a scientist's eyes. But looking as a curator, looking as an artist, we see the effects of climate change on our homes, on our communities. And into the greater region. I was traveling in Thailand after the hurricane here, and on the coast, their rainy season has extended and it flooded almost every day. I was in Chonburi. It also flooded in Bangkok, which was very unusual. So people that I was speaking to in Thailand were saying our rainy season has extended by almost a month over the last 24 years. That's a rough calculation. Some people said 12, some people said 24. So between 12 and 24 years, people who have lived there have seen the effects of climate change. And to come from the hurricane in the mountains of Western North Carolina, and then to be halfway across the planet, around the globe, to see climate change affecting lives there. Most of the artists that I am bringing to the Turchin Center for the next exhibition, like many of the artists who were resident artists at Oak Spring, they are all interested in looking at changes in the environment, changes in the climate through their visual artwork, whether it's fibers, whether it's painting, whether it's documentary videos, whether it's creating site-specific installation work. Most of the artists that I am choosing to work with have something to say about how the climate has changed during our lifetimes. Some of the artists are older, some of them are younger, but they have all seen the effects of climate change on their communities. And so I think if you can create safe and brave spaces for people to talk about issues that can be polarizing, that shouldn't be polarizing, but that can be polarizing, art gives us a way to talk about very important topics, and it brings people together who might not necessarily come together otherwise.
Well, that kind of answers my question, because I was wondering how much you've seen the art itself being, climate change being depicted through art. Mm-hmm. Is this something you've seen in particular mediums, or give us an idea of how this is influenced? Because it's a conversation, an everyday conversation, isn't it? So I'm wondering how it's depicted in art and to your knowledge and experience.
I think that artists are sort of bellwethers of the times, and most artists do not work in a vacuum. They're very interested in current issues, whether they're cultural issues, political issues, environmental issues, economic issues, and really those are all tied together. That many artists, whether they're documentary photographers, several of the artists that I worked with from Thailand are fiber artists. There is one young artist. Her name is Kelsey Wagner. She's an American artist. She received a artist residency at the Jim Thompson Foundation in Thailand, and she weaves with all recycled materials, and she has done a lot of community projects both in the United States and in Thailand, where the community comes together. They collect trash from the rivers, they collect trash from the sides of the road, they clean that trash, and they create environmental statements about it, whether it's a giant sea turtle, whether it's recreating the New River here in North Carolina, whether it's some of the huge textiles that she's created and shown internationally that are all woven out of recycled materials. So I think fiber artists, photographers, painters, filmmakers are all sort of grappling with what do we do with the detritus that we've created as a human species? How can we use that in our artwork? How can we make artwork that encourages people to move from anxiety to activism? And I see that more and more across all disciplines in the arts.
Well, that's very interesting, and I think that wraps it up very nicely. And in conclusion, is there any particular message that you would have to artists, to listeners of this podcast, who feel that community is something that they want to belong to? Because I think as humans, we all want to belong, don't we, in some way? And how art is creating that community where they can find outlets to be part of these days, and not least of all through the residences we have here at Oak Spring.
Well, I think many artists have the opportunity to do residencies, whether it's Oak Spring, whether it's any resident program for writers, for visual artists, for scientists. I think what's unique about Oak Spring is it brings artists and scientists and writers and readers all together. But there are many, many artists residencies in this country, all over the world, where artists can come together, be supported to work on their individual projects, then come together over meals, hike in the landscape together, talk about what they're doing, share ideas, and then take their artwork out into the nonprofit world, which is my world. There's also the commercial art world where, of course, artists all have to make a living as well. And the commercial art world supports that by selling their artwork and showing their artwork in international art fairs and biennials. But I think another way to get involved is go to your local art museum, whether it's on a university campus, whether it happens to be MoMA in New York City, whether it's a small community art center like 516 Arts in Santa Fe, or Center in 516 Arts is in Albuquerque, but Center is in Santa Fe. They have a brand new gallery and library. Support your local art institutions. I was just a few years ago at the Dubuque Art Museum in Dubuque, Iowa, which has a fabulous collection of Grant Woods. Who knew? So go and see what's being shown at your local, regional, anytime you travel, at the art centers, wherever you find yourself. Talk to the curators, talk to the other visitors to those centers, go to the openings, listen to the music, just get involved and talk to people. That's how we all create community, because as you said, we all want to belong. We all want to be a part of a conversation that is hopefully bigger than just our individual being. We learn so much from participating in the world, and the act of creation itself is a belief in the future. It's more than hope and prayers. It's actually creating something that you think will change the world and that will exist beyond you. And that's how we create community.
Marianne, thank you so much for that and for joining us this month. It's been lovely to have a chat about what is obviously something that you're passionate about.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation and this wonderful conversation. I really appreciate it. And the community that you're creating through your podcasts.
Our next guest is Ginger Anderson, who is Oak Springs Education and Outreach Specialist. Ginger joined the team in the summer of 2022, and she works primarily with local community centres and public schools. With a background as a high school teacher herself and a former florist, Ginger is passionate about creating engaging, hands-on experiences that inspire youth to connect with plants and the environment. Ginger, welcome to the Oak Spring podcast. This is the first time you've been on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to share.
We love to get everyone involved, obviously, on the podcast, and there are so many different stories to tell, of course, from faculty, from staff members, and all very, very interested in, because all roads have led ultimately to Oak Spring. And I want to hear about how your pathway led us to Oak Spring. Then tell us your background.
Well, my background, I'm from Frederick County, Virginia, so right over the mountain. Pretty much grew up there my whole life, and on a farm. We raised Jersey cattle. Very much an agricultural girl. I fed calves on a daily basis before and after school. And then I also did a lot of gardening and lawn care and landscaping with my family. I went to Virginia Tech and studied and wanted to share agriculture with other youth because it was, just an amazing part of my life. So I studied agriculture education at Virginia Tech and came back to Frederick County as a middle school agri-science teacher. After teaching at the middle school level for several years, there was an availability and opening at the high school to teach more of the horticulture classes, which included floral design, greenhouse plant production, landscaping class. And I was ready for that challenge. I was very passionate about growing all things from animals to plants and wanted to kind of dive into that. So I moved to another school within the county and served as department head and taught those courses and worked with the FFA and worked with 4-H pretty much my entire life. I got married at that point. My husband is from Frederick County as well. And we decided to start a family. And I knew the way I am very much involved with the youth that I was teaching, traveling and competing and just after school activities, that I wanted to venture from public education and do something more entrepreneurial in my life. I have my mom's deceased, but she was very influential in my life. And at that point, she was ready to leave a construction business that she worked for 29 years because she was very passionate about gardening and flowers. And we bought a florist with very little expertise in owning and running a business. We ran a very successful floral business in Winchester, and I raised our kids in the florist. My husband and I have 3 beautiful children, adults now. And when I left the floral business, when my mom passed away, I went back into education because it is my passion. Even when I was at the florist, I was hosting FFA groups and like I would have workshops for even for brides and bridesmaids so that they could create their dream wedding florals and things like that. I love teaching. It's just always been a part of me. And went back into education at the high school level, teaching again all the horticulture and plant science classes. And as my children were getting older and finishing college, and my daughter was actually in the high school I was teaching in, and she was ready to start college, I just felt like I was ready for a new adventure in my life. And actually came to a wreath workshop at Oak Spring. I knew very little about Oak Spring Garden Foundation and signed up to do a wreath workshop. I could have done a wreath on my own, probably with my eyes closed, but I just wanted to see something new and meet new people. And I don't know, I was blown away. I was blown away with the professionalism. I was blown away with the quality of material that they had grown and dried on the farm. The openness and friendly atmosphere was so welcoming. I came on my own that day and I left. And I don't know, I think in my life, when one door closes, another has always opened. And I had just a few days before got on a website just to do some job searching and put my interest in. And within a week, I had received a job description for education and outreach specialist, and it was Oak Spring Garden Foundation. And I was like, I just went crazy. I was so excited to apply for the position. And I was so happy that I received a call back about interviewing. And it was just an amazing experience to meet the leadership. When I came here for a tour, I was blown away with all the programming. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Now, you joined the staff here at Oak Spring in the summer of 2022, yes, focusing obviously on community and outreach. Talk about the program as you started it, what that looked like and what your goals are.
Well, I worked alongside leadership to try to see what their desire was for the program. Obviously, there was no program until I got here. And we kind of decided together that the mission of the foundation included reaching local youth, kindergarten through 12th grade. So we started really with a plan to provide free programming to local students in the public school system specifically. And that program would be all things plants. I was part of the farm team when I came in. So obviously with my agriculture background, I was teaching a lot of things associated with sustainable farming and gardening techniques and such. And then once I got here and was exposed to some of the artists and other aspects, the biodiversity team, the ACL team, all these different other areas that are fascinating about Oak Spring Garden Foundation, I expanded the curriculum to include more than just agriculture and food production and, healthy choices and things like that. So we worked within a 25-mile radius when I first started. I reached out to school board officials and principals at schools. I had some connections with the agriculture teachers. Actually, one of the first things, like 2 days after I started, I hosted the Virginia Agriculture Educators here at Oak Spring for a small workshop about seed saving and heirlooms, about the biocultural conservation farm, kind of a tour and program. And then worked a lot with the ag departments. And then obviously, the artistic ties with Oak Spring Garden Foundation, and we have a lot of art programs, and a lot of art teachers found out about the programming through some flyers and emails that we sent out. So we had quite a lot of local art teachers, middle school, elementary, and high school, that started bringing kids here. We started collaborating specifically in the Marshall area. Leadership did really want us to pour into that area of Fauquier County. So we have a wonderful relationship with Claude Thompson Elementary School. We offer a garden club program that's 6 or 7 weeks of programming where we help them reestablish their school garden. And then just also educate them in lots of different things associated with all things plants, from, propagating to seed saving to art, to creating self-care products from plants, you name it. We just try to make it fun and exciting and teach them something new, spark an interest in maybe a career in the green industry down the road. But that's kind of how we started. And the program, obviously, it took off very well. Teachers, budget issues and teachers looking for interesting ways to get kids to get hands-on experience. And I'm all about learning by doing. That's how I was raised in education, and that's what I think really stimulates learning. We offer that, whether we're going off campus here and going into the schools. We try to take the materials with us that we grow and that we have here, for kids to really be investigative in whatever they're doing. Or when we bring them here, it's obviously the most experiential learning that they would be able to have, because they're hands-on, they're in the field, they're in the dirt, they're exploring the landscape. So that's kind of where we started in July of 2022. We did have an amazing event with an artist, Elizabeth Turk, that came in that October. That was really a great way to introduce the outreach program, because we invited a lot of schools and a lot of students here to Oak Spring for kind of a, hey, look at this place. This is a great place, and we're not open to the public, but we're now hosting youth events here and youth educational programs. So we had that on the airstrip, and we also used it as definitely a teaching moment, but also an artistic event where we, the artists designed these amazing umbrella canvases with it featuring different plants. And we danced around the runway with them all lit up that evening. That was the weekend of a hurricane. So it was just a great way to kind of say, boom, here we are. We're ready to be here for the local community, and we're ready to pour into you and pour into the youth.
Well, as you know, the theme of this month's episode, Ginger, is community. And it seems that you're building this community by as much as going off campus, as you say, to visit these institutions, educational institutions in the vicinity. Talk a little bit about how that works and how often that you would go off to different schools.
Well, it's not just schools. We also, we work with the Warrenton Senior Center. We also work with special populations. So we do every other month, we do programming at the Warrenton Senior Center where we go in and have a theme, and we work with those seniors that, and engage them in an activity associated with plants in some way. We were just there this week doing a program with our dried flowers where they created a heart topiary for the season made with beautiful dried flowers. We also try really hard to not just hit a group or an organization one time with our programming, even though that's great, but we're about establishing relationships. We're about supporting our community in more ways than just intellectually. We really, along with leadership, hope to establish these relationships and support, the community through creating relationships, offering. Just an example is just offering summer internships. Most of the departments here at Oak Spring offer youth and young adults summer internship opportunities that might lead to, again, a lasting career in the field in some way. With our outreach at the local libraries, we're offering monthly programming. Every Tuesday, we're at a local Fauquier library. At those library programs, we serve youth 6 to 11 years of age in a location with a program. And while we're doing that, simultaneously, we're working with teens, like about a 12 to 18-year-old age group. And those things, we have the same kids coming to those programs over and over again. They know us now. We know their names. We know their families. Their families are now sending their younger siblings to our camps. We're able to pour into community, I think, mostly by establishing relationships and just sharing the gifts of Bunny Mellon through, education, but in a fun way.
Yes, absolutely. Now talk a little bit, if you can, then, Ginger, about what you're planning for the future in terms of the community growth.
Well, we have decided as a team, our local education and outreach team, or LEO, as our president calls us, we're going to expand our programming beyond the 25-mile radius. And we're going to try to engage with some of the more urban areas, trying to get them out to Oak Spring Garden Foundation on field trips so that they can experience this place. Obviously, not forgetting our local community and supporting them in lots of different ways through the 3 local elementary schools. For example, we're offering 5 scholarships apiece so that kids that don't normally get to experience a summer camp can participate in our plant camps this summer. We're never going to forget our local outreach mission and pouring back into the local community here in Fauquier County. But we do feel like there's so many people that are in more urban settings that don't get to experience the beauty of nature and experience agriculture and experience the biodiversity and plant life and people that are at this place. So we're going to expand out to some of the city schools, Fairfax and different areas like that in Virginia. Obviously, we're going to, long-term try to have curriculum and material online for educators all over the place to be able to pull lessons and different things that are creative and different than the norm, just to try something new. Maybe they don't have access to plant dyes, but we can show them where to get the material so that they can experiment with natural plant dyes with kids, and give them some activities in labs where they can get creative with things like that, where they don't have, access to plants with healing powers, where we can give them a guide or lesson plan online that they can get some different herbs and things like that they can get in kids' hands so they can experience the sensory benefits of working with plants of that nature. In addition, I am super excited about, I love in person. Obviously, I love people. I love youth. I love all people. And I love experiencing learning with them and growing with them. But there are populations that don't get to experience things like that for certain reasons. And we're able on a few occasions now to do some pre-made kits with teaching materials from the farm, from the property, that organizations can pick up, take out to their clients, and then we pre-record a lesson that they can view and still experience Oak Spring in a way. We try to record those lessons in the spaces that are appropriate. For example, in the glass house, if we're teaching about propagation or growing, or in the walled garden, if we're working with dye plants or fiber plants, so that they can experience it through video recording. And just, along with having the kits with some of the materials so that they can experience Oak Spring, even though they can't necessarily or are unable to be here. So I think the future is going to bring a lot more participation. I think my team is amazing, but I can see our continued growth and demand for our lessons and for our engagement with the community. We are expanding into 2 more Loudoun County libraries next school year. So we'll be going to Gum Spring, and we'll be going to Purcellville. We're already at Middleburg Library once a month doing programming. So I think we're going to be able to reach out to a lot more local youth and teens through those programs.
There's so much to know about the work that you're doing, Ginger. How can we find more information? Is there somewhere on the website where our listeners can go to?
Yes. If you go to our website under programs and scroll down to youth education, there's information there on some of the example programs that we offer and how to schedule through the website. And then we typically reach out to teachers or youth group leaders or organizations that serve seniors or special populations and try to just have a discussion about what their needs are, and just try to get it scheduled so that it's beneficial for everyone. So I would highly recommend on the website looking at our program flyer. We also have our summer camps coming up. For 6 to 12-year-olds, we are offering 3 summer camps, or 3 weeks of summer camp with 3 different themes this summer. This will be our second summer of camps. One theme will be farmers and chefs, so a lot of farming and gardening, growing, harvesting techniques, using sustainable techniques, and then also a lot of culinary. So a lot of taking what's harvested and what they have and creating some wonderful recipes with those in that camp. The second camp, or a second session, is called Botanical Explorers. That camp is for the kid that likes to learn about how plants have been used throughout different, historically, by different cultures. There's going to be a lot of art associations in that camp. And the third camp is called a Be a Naturalist camp. And that's going to be a lot of ecology, conservation, natural resource kind of labs, scientific exploration, and then also, working with water, working with soil, being back doing some wildlife studies, grassland studies, things like that. So that is on our website as well right now. And then also finally our library flyer that lists the date and time and the program topic that we're featuring for each of these libraries for youth and for teens. So that's the best way, the website.
Go to the website, osgf.org, and you'll find out a lot more about these programs that Ginger is responsible for. Is there anything finally you would like our audience to know, Ginger, before we sign off here?
No, we're very grateful. My team is very grateful to be a part of Oak Spring Garden Foundation and to be a part of this community. Coming from another county that I had grown up in and then experiencing Fauquier County has just been heartwarming. And I can see how much this community appreciates and loves the youth and cares about their future. And I'm just fortunate that we're able to be a part of that. And hopefully we'll continue to make a lasting impression in the spirit of Bunny Mellon on all these kids and give them, possibilities with plants as she would want us to.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Ginger, for taking time to come on the podcast this month. It's great to hear your perspective on the work that you're doing.
Thank you for having me.
And a reminder that you'll find all the links to our programs and courses here, the work of the outreach and community programs, all on our website at osgf.org. And you can also subscribe to our newsletter, the Oak Spring newsletter, by going to the website, or also you can email us at program@osgf.org. You'll find us on social media, on Twitter at oak_spring, on Facebook at Oak Spring Garden Foundation, and on Instagram at Oak Spring Garden Foundation. My thanks again to our guests this month, Mary Ann Reddin and Ginger Anderson, and to you for listening. I'll be back next month when our topic will be Poetry Month, so I do hope you'll join us then.